Welcome to the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature top founders and entrepreneurs and share their inspiring stories. Now, let's get started with the show.
Matthew Connor here, host of the Cyber Business Podcast, where we feature successful business leaders, authors, top law firms, green energy companies, and more. Today, we're joined by a 6-time best-selling author and the founder and CEO of Ignite Press, Everett O'Keefe. Everett, welcome to the show.
Hey, Matt, it is great to see you. Thanks for having me on. I'm having a blast already just with our pre-recording talk that nobody gets to see.
That's right. The secret conversation.
That's right.
All right. Well,
it's all the good stuff happens in the green room, right? Isn't that the way it works?
Well, you know what? Let's not let everybody know. It's our little secret. All right. Before we get too far in, quick word from our sponsors. This episode is brought to you by cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. Do you know if a hacker's been in your system? Most people and most companies don't until it's too late and the hacker's already done damage. A hacker's job is to bypass your security, so companies need a way of knowing when somebody's gotten past their security. That's where CyberLink's intrusion detection comes in. With our 24/7 Security Operations Center, we monitor your computers, networks, and cloud accounts using a combination of AI and highly skilled cybersecurity technicians to detect any signs of attack or intrusion. So if a bad guy gets past your security, we'll know right away and be able to kick them out. Find out more at cyberlinks.com. That's cyberlynx.com. And now back to our show. All right, Everett, thanks for coming on. This is going to be a lot of fun, as you've already alluded to. Now, for those who aren't familiar, can you tell them about Ignite Press? Because you being the founder and CEO, tell us all about it.
Yeah, thank you so much. So we're a hybrid publishing company, and most people don't know what in the heck a hybrid publishing company is. We sit in between traditional and self-publishing, and we like to think we embrace the best of both worlds. Traditional publishing, many people don't know, is a tough road, hard to get picked up. Even when you do, you sell your IP, so you do not have control of how you use your intellectual property in the future. You don't get paid enough for your own book. You pay too much to buy your own book, and it can take a couple years to bring a book to market. Self-publishing is great, has great controls, but you have to do it all yourself. So we sit in between those two. We work with nonfiction authors. They're usually speakers, coaches, consultants, business executives, nonprofit executives, to help them get their message to the world and to make them Amazon #1 best-selling authors. So that's what we do.
Very cool. You said something there that I gotta dive into. So in traditional publishing, you give up your intellectual property rights. So if I've got this whatever idea for a book, I go to, I don't know, Penguin or whomever, and they're like, okay, I'm giving it up. They own it now, and now I get money when it's successful. Or how's that work?
Yeah, so the contracts often include sale of the intellectual property and derivative products that come from it. So you have to be careful. They often will have the first right of refusal on a sequel. Very often movie rights and things like that get bundled in and the authors don't know it. So there are definitely some pitfalls there. And then just little stuff about how you use your own book. Like, Matt, let's say you're speaking at a cybersecurity conference and you want to give everybody in the audience a copy of your book. You may not be able to do that. Or if you wanted to sell them in the bookstore at the conference bookstore, you may not be able to do that under the terms that you want, because the bookstore's got to protect their relationship. The publisher has to protect their relationship with bookstores. And so your use may not be the one that's most important. So yeah, there's some landmines there to navigate.
Wow. Okay. So, well, let's take that story, right? Let's say that I've got this cybersecurity book. Great. I've kind of written most of it. Got this great angle. Let's say I've written the whole thing. Now I run it out to publishers. What are some of the things that I want to look for, in terms of an actual publisher versus say the hybrid? what are kind of the pros and cons of both here that I want to consider?
Yeah, it's interesting. First, on the traditional publishing, you usually have to land an agent,
Mhm.
and the agent, is hopefully has the relationships with the publishers that publish your type of work because there has to be a fit, right? Penguin may not want to publish a book on cybersecurity, but some, other publisher might specialize in that. The trick with traditional publishing, though, is they will often say, look, if you don't have 75,000, 75,000 email addresses or 75,000 followers on this or that, or 100,000 on this other, they just don't want to talk to you. We joke around, it's like going to the bank for money, right? You, you see it, right? They only
Yep.
want to loan you money if you don't need it. And that's the challenge with traditional publishing. It's like a lot of people have a great message to get to the world
Yeah.
and a great use pattern. Like, if you had a book, how you would use it within your brand. And perhaps you already do, by the way. But traditional publishers, like, yeah, they don't want to roll the dice on you. They only want the sure thing, which I totally get.
Yeah. Interesting. So, um, when it comes to Ignite and kind of that hybrid model, so let's say a business owner, we'll keep using the cybersecurity. So me, for instance, what would be some of the things some of the benefits, if you will, of going down that path of a book? Because most people, they're very busy. A book is kind of that's a often they consider a very daunting task. It's something that takes a lot of time and effort. So how do is the juice worth the
Yeah,
squeeze? What do you?
that's so important. Such a great question. The deal is you think of anything, if you're a business owner, you're a coach, consultant, whatever, and you decide to come up with one marketing initiative, whatever product you might create to support that marketing initiative is probably outdated very often before it ever hits the pavement. And it's something that will have limited juice to it. So let's just say you create the best marketing video ever, right? Will you be using that 2 years from now?
Right.
Will you use it 20 years from now? There's just not a chance, right?
Right. Yep.
A book is the most durable marketing tool you can ever create for your business. And there's no marketing tool like it to create expertise, right? To get that expert status. I I had someone, I don't know where I got the quote. I love it, but it's like you want to be the guy who wrote the book, not the guy who read the book.
Right.
I'm like, I got to track that down to find out where that came from because
Yeah.
it's too good. So for our clients, it's about expert positioning. It's about breathing the rare air of authorship. This, almost everybody wants to be an author, at least, I it'd be great to be an author, but a fraction of a fraction of a fraction of percentage of those people will ever write a book, and a smaller percentage will ever see it published.
Yep.
And so those are the people we serve. They're usually they're executives, they're entrepreneurs, and they want to get a book in the market to leverage it for their business to ride the benefits that come with authorship. And so that's what we do. And those are the types of people we work with.
I love it. So let's explore that a little bit.
Sure.
So what are some of the ways that you can help a business leader like me, go down that path?
Yeah. So very often clients come to us, they already have a manuscript that they've been working on, sometimes for years and years and years. And if they already have a manuscript, we can pick them up basically where they are and carry them all the way to the finish line. We can carry them through editing and layout, book design, publishing, and an Amazon bestseller launch so that at the end of the day, they are a number one best-selling author on Amazon. We turn around and we rebadge the cover of the book to be reflective of that accomplishment as well. So that accomplishment is never lost, going forward for that author. And for those authors who don't know what they don't have a manuscript, we have a number of strategies that we can employ to help them create an appropriate manuscript that's going to speak well for their brand and give them that expert status. And then for those who need ghostwriting can also be accomplished, and as would do all of the above.
Oh, nice. So, well, let's go to that extreme of I'm not sure it's an extreme, but given those three examples, it's already written. You kind of have an idea, and then need somebody else to write it. I've got the idea, but I don't have the time to write it. So let's go with that example. What's that look like in terms of time, effort, cost? Because I know some author, some writers, I should say, who are ghostwriters, and when they've written for some very well-known people, and it is not a inexpensive proposal.
Yes.
And now I'm thinking that I don't need that level of writing for my book, so I wouldn't go to one of those people. But to get those ideas out, what does a ghostwriter generally cost? How does that
Yeah,
even
I
work
mean,
pricing wise?
as you kind of alluded to, ghostwriters are all over the board, right? You could find a ghostwriter maybe for a few $1,000s, or you can find one for probably a few $100,000, depending on what their track record is and who they've written for. Um, the ghostwriters that we work with typically are in a $10,000 to $35,000 range, something like that. But I have a hack for for your listeners and watchers, a much easier way to create a book that will do everything they need it to do and not cost them anything substantial in regards to the writing. Um, a lot of people every day answer frequently asked questions about their business or brand, right? If I sat down with you and we started talking just about cybersecurity and I said, hey, let's just start writing down some questions. Probably in 3 minutes time, you could write down at least 20 different questions that you get asked day in, day out. And if you just take that list and grab your phone and dictate for 5 or 10 minutes an answer to each of those questions that you already answer every day, you have that pat answer. If the what's the name of the attack that they do where they just try to overwhelm a website? Is that denial?
DDoS. Yeah, denial of
Denial of
service.
service, right?
Yep.
So if I ask that question, Matt, what is a DDoS attack? You have at least 5 or 10 minutes of a response to that if you wanted to go into that depth.
Yep.
Well, guess what? That's chapter one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's chapter one of your book. And then we go into, Matt, what's phishing? And you go, let me tell you about phishing, Everett. And you tell me about phishing. That's with a P, by the way, for those. It's not
The uninitiated.
It's not with a run,
living
not with
under
a
a rock.
run reel, right?
Yeah.
You could do 5 or 10 minutes on that, and that's chapter two. You can create, and I will tell you, my very first book I created in about, and I'm not recommending this for everyone, but it's a way. I dictated the content for my first book in about 2 hours time.
Wow.
I had it, then when had it transcribed, then it was time. Then I could go in and add nuggets, clean up, change, tweak, etc., or hire someone else to do those things. And then we can go into professional editing, layout, cover design, and launch. So there are several methods like that that can create a book rather rapidly. But for those people who are like, oh no, I have a better way to go, a more organic, that's fine too. That they're all of these are methods to be used to create a book that is an expert positioning tool.
Fantastic. So let's kind of continue to explore that. So whether you've used a ghostwriter, the kind of combination, or you've written the whole thing and you're ready to go, you bring it to Ignite, you help put the whole thing together, edit it, you got the layout, the design, everything, you get it published. There it is. It's out on Amazon. Great. Now what?
Yeah, and now it's a matter of how you leverage it within the business. But we'll do an Amazon bestseller launch. What we'll do is typically built around the Kindle version of the book, and the idea is for us to create this one singular sales spike on Amazon so that for a period of time, the author is the number one best-selling author in one or more categories. For instance, my first book was about video marketing. That was an emphasis of our business at one point. And so on launch, it became the number one best-selling book on Amazon in small business marketing and entrepreneurialism. And I was sitting there looking on Amazon, seeing my book above John Maxwell, above Malcolm Gladwell, Dave Ramsey, Andy Andrews, who's one of my absolute favorite authors that most people have never heard of. And it was, I just can't tell you the impact it had internally to see that. And that's kind of when we said, my goodness, why aren't we doing this for other people to help them experience being number one best-selling authors, the credibility that comes with that. And I can tell you shortly thereafter was we started landing video marketing deals on a scale that we hadn't considered before. And we had people also then coming out of the woodwork going, hey, how'd you do that book thing? Can you help us do that book thing?
Right.
And so there we did,
Well, yeah, and now you've done hundreds now, over
so we're at 150. We just crossed the 150 mark, and we published. Last year was, we're publishing at this pace right now about 25, 30 titles a year.
Wow.
We do vet them. We want to make sure that they're professional and that they're in keeping with our publishing standards.
Sure.
And I tell you, we have a great time doing it. I have a great time seeing it happen. I had a story I was thinking about sharing with you, Matt.
Please do.
So we had this client that came to us, and I'm gonna call her Cindy. That's not her real name. The names have been
Cindy.
protected. Yeah, names have been changed to protect the innocent. She said we could use her story. She just didn't want her name. You may see why. She came to us with a manuscript, and she said, Everett, I'm speaking at a conference in Dubai in about 60 days. And no, she wasn't speaking. I'm sorry. She goes, I'm attending an international healthcare conference in Dubai in about 60 days. And I've been working on this manuscript, and I would love to have something in hand by the time I get there. Like, is there a way you could help us? A way you could help me? I said, well, yeah, let's take a look. So we actually took on her project, and we took it through copy editing and layout, got it on Amazon, and basically got her some copies at the last minute. She only needed she wanted 5 or 10 copies that she could take to the conference. So she got to the conference in Dubai. Again, she's just attending. And on the very first day, she found the people that she wanted to get her book to, and she gave them copies of her book. And then that night, she's walking through the lobby, and she sees one of these people sitting down reading her book. She was like, okay, wow, this is a trip. This is a kick. And then the next day, one of the people came up to her and said, hey, I want to talk to you more about your book. I want to see if there's something we can do here. Well, the end result is she left that conference with several new clients that she wouldn't have had other than the book. In fact, one of them they met back in the States, engaged her in a significant way. Another one was asked her to write a section of a textbook on her topic so that could be used in a college textbook. And another one said, hey, we would like you to speak for us at this conference next year. So she went from basically nothing on the international stage to suddenly being published in a textbook so that she would be among other critical thinkers and sources in her industry, hired, profitable, and paid to go speak at that same conference the following year, all because of a book. And her talents. I mean, she had talents and intelligence and all of those fun things. But those are the types of things that we see happening with books. And that's why we're so excited about helping people with them.
Wow. So let me ask you, because I don't think you said, I might have missed it, but did you say what industry she was in and kind of what her
Yeah,
expertise was?
it was a healthcare conference.
So
Yeah,
was this like Dr. So and she was attending,
yeah. Theirs
something?
was. I'm trying to think if theirs was about. And it might have been medical tourism. I think
Okay.
was the topic of that. So
Okay. Very
yeah,
cool. So,
yeah,
I think that that's really helpful. And I'd love to know, are there other kind of examples you can share with us so that, people listening might be like, you know what, I'm not a doctor. I don't do medical tourism. All right. And now obviously we cannot hit every industry and every possible scenario, but maybe some more examples like that. Cause I think that's a really powerful, example. But can you give us some more ideas, more examples like
yeah,
that?
yeah. Absolutely. And the cool thing about this is that publishing is right not for every industry, but for most professional industries. Like, yeah, I don't know that actually, I was going to just say that I don't know if you're a garbage man or waste disposal expert or whatever they're waste disposal engineer, whatever. If a book is right for you, but if you're an executive in that industry, it absolutely.
Well, I think if you are, you're in the mob, so it doesn't really matter. Right? The waste man. Oh, and that's the last show we see Matt on.
Oh man, well, yeah, well,
Matt,
there you go.
I got taken out by the mob. There we go.
Yeah, if we know
Sorry,
if you disappear, we'll
you'll
know.
know why.
Have
It'll be
some
me and
idea where to
Hoffa.
start
Find
looking
me, you'll
for
find
you.
Hoffa. Right? No,
Yeah.
okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no. So one of our clients is a financial advisor, Frank Lies, and he wrote a book. In fact, I have it here. So he wrote this book, The Way of Wealth,
Hmm.
7 Steps to Financial Freedom in a World of Economic Dependence. Okay.
Okay.
So
Nice.
Frank wrote this book, and Frank, in addition to being a financial advisor, also had been doing some speaking to financial advisors and to in front of conferences and things like that. And so Frank wrote this book. I'll be honest, when we met, he had been writing this for 3 years. And we did some other things for him that were unrelated to his book for about 2 more years. And then finally I said, Frank, are we going to do this thing? You're going to finish this book?
Yeah.
I actually had to send him a copy of his book with just a cover and nothing on the inside. And I said, there was a note in it that said, now fill it. But a little crass at the time. Anyway, so Frank published this book. We did a bestseller campaign. It became a #1 best-selling book in money management and in retirement planning. And over the next year, Frank saw his speaking increase by his speaking fees. Actually, he made about 6 times revenue in his speaking side of his business, and substantially increased his core business by 6 digits or more in the year following the book. And so Frank will say it for him, it's like the Archimedes lever, right? It's
Yeah.
like, give me a long enough lever, I can move anything. And
Yeah.
he's like, a book is the thing. And he says it over and over and over. And he's been a big fan of what we do. And the great thing is I like, just think of an industry where expertise wouldn't be, or expert status wouldn't be rewarded. You know, um, we we joke around that, like, if you're a dentist, are you the dentist who does everything else that everyone else does, or are you the dentist that does all those, but you're also a best-selling author with a book about dentistry?
Yeah.
Like, what are you, right? If you're in cybersecurity, right? Do you have that separation? If you're a chiropractor, if you're an executive director of a nonprofit, like, all of these things have a role for books. And so that's what we help. That's honestly what we help people do.
It's funny. Hold on. I gotta get something to show you here.
Reach behind yourself there too.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Since
love
you
how
did
your
it,
camera just automatically zooms in.
isn't it crazy? The things
What
it
the
can see.
heck?
So I did the same sort of deal, but
Yes.
thank you. Yeah. So it's just a little guy, and it was the same idea. I had gone, I joined some
By the
groups
way,
where they.
for anyone who's just listening to the podcast, Matt just held up his book, which is called
Oh yeah, Social media, PR dreamer, cybersecurity nightmare.
Very
So
good.
we dive into that obvious issue there, and there's some really interesting topics in there, and we discuss some of the basics, ways that you can get yourself into trouble, and some of the the tactics they use to collect data, and probably time for an update, even though it's only been a couple years. But I share this with you because after doing it, it was fun because I used it after going to this marketing group and working with them. They were big on, look, you got to have a book or something that you can kind of differentiate yourself with. And so great. So I put together this book, published it. I didn't value it much. And I think that was my own sort of head trash. But interestingly, I did get several clients simply by virtue of, we had a meeting, gave them a copy of the book, and then next time I was in their office, it was so cool to see that they had my book right there on their desk. And it's like, if not, if nothing else, I know that a business card wouldn't have been there. So whether they actually read it or not, or gained any information from it, I don't know. Can't say. But I do know it was there and I got the business. So those things I
Matt,
know happen.
you just hit on several things. There's so I wrote a book called The Power of the Published, and there's a chapter in there called The Power of the Unread Book.
Mm.
So think about that book, whether they read your book or not, like you just said. They took your book, immediately recognized you're the author of the book. Okay, that puts you in a class all to yourself. Okay. They're like, okay, this book is clearly about social media and cybersecurity. Well, Matt must be an expert on social media and cybersecurity, or he wouldn't be the author of this book. So let's say they set it down. Let's say they never read it, right? That book is just this constant reminder of your expertise. It's the constant reminder that if they need someone in cybersecurity, that, well, here's the guy. He wrote the book, right? He wrote the book. And we are allergic to throwing away books, right? Like,
don't throw them away, don't burn them. Yeah.
They hang, don't burn them. Don't you dare. And so we're allergic to throwing them away. And now, and what's that book cost you per copy? Do you know, Matt?
It was very small. I think $2 or something like that. Yeah. It's a very small amount.
So the current minimum for a book done print on demand like this is $2.35.
Yeah.
Okay? My book cost me $3.06 a copy, The Power of the Published. And how much would you spend to put a calculator on someone's desk, or a branded mug, or a t-shirt, or a whatever? And where will that be 30 days from now or 6 months from now? Whereas the book, it's going to be around a while.
Yeah.
We just moved offices. Do you know how hard it was for me to trim down all the books that I've collected?
Right.
So this is why it's so durable and powerful. They just don't go away. And even if it does go away, your accomplishment, as the author, as the number one best-selling author, never goes away. And that just, man, when I first launched, I totally undervalued that aspect of it for myself, for my first book. And now I see it all the time in our authors.
Yeah, I think, had this conversation now, I'm like, I think revisiting this whole idea and then going after that Amazon, best-selling author thing, I think that would be really smart. It's something I didn't do. I was doing it just to kind of check the box, do this thing that this marketing group's saying I should be doing, hand it out. When I meet people, fine, okay, I've got a million, balls I'm juggling here as I try to figure it out so I can put somebody else in to do that. But I want to make sure I've got it right first. So I'm juggling all these things, and I think that was the mistake, or not a mistake. But it's something I've now learned, and I think we would value more, is going through that process again, getting that Amazon bestselling, and then using it as and promoting that fact to kind of elevate me and my business from the competition, whether it matters or not. I mean, I think at the end of the day, looking at kind of my business as a whole. Oh, we've got this podcast. We're talking to these people. We've got the best-selling author is in cybersecurity. So who do we want? Now we're looking at a few cybersecurity firms. Which one do we want? The one where the guy's a best-selling author, or the one where the guy's not, or gal? whatever. But I just happen to be a guy. So, I think I think that if nothing else, all other things being equal, I think that really puts you a step ahead above. And for, a relatively, I mean, as you said, what, less than $3 a copy. And
You're going to
what's it
spend
take?
$6 on a mug. You give someone a branded mug, it's $6. You give them a branded, um, uh, whatever the heck these things are called, a Yeti or whatever. You're
Yeti.
going to spend a whole lot more than that.
You sure do. Yeah, I looked into that. I was like, that's really cool. In fact, my company used to be called Your IT Department, and so I kicked this idea off. It's now Cyberlinks, but I was like, you know what, I'm going to try that. So I got one for myself. The logo came out sideways. I couldn't do it the other way because it doesn't fit. And I was like, nah. What am I, like $80 into this thing? I'm like, you know what? I'm not passing out $80 Yetis all over the place and then it's just silly. Who wants to see this thing anyway?
Well, and I love these things, but they don't say anything about your credibility or your expert status, right? And that's the thing. It just, just honestly cracks me up. So yeah, I went on. Your book is on Amazon, and by the way, for anyone watching and listening to the podcast, go buy Matthew's Connor book, Social Media, PR Dream, or Cybersecurity Nightmare on Amazon, available in Kindle and paperback. But get your copy today. I was going to share.
Thanks for the plug.
Hey, man, I'm all about it. I was going to share another strategy that I'm just starting to employ, that your listeners, watchers, et cetera, can employ if they have a book. Whenever I meet somebody, and now we meet people so much, we meet remotely, right? All the time. And we live in this world where everything is done digitally. And so the old school touch of physical, of something physical makes a difference and an impact. So after I get off the phone with people, I always grab a copy of my book. I sign it, and for them, I usually put a note with it, and I send them a copy of my book. It costs me very little to do that. It's super easy. Yep. And now I'm like, well, I think I might have learned it actually from Nick Hutchison or from someone else is like, put a second copy with it, a second copy that for them to give to someone else that can also benefit from your service. And so now I may be able to double the conversations just by sending that second book. I'll pay $3 more to send a second book to maybe have a relationship that, will generate 5 digits or more in income. Why wouldn't I do that? Yeah. Right?
100%. Wow.
Absolutely crazy. So the book as a follow-on tool, the book as a door opener, the book as a credibility piece, man, just hard to beat.
It really is. And you know what, to your point, I didn't even have to turn around this time. So now we'll give Nick a plug.
Absolutely.
Nick,
Rise of the Reader.
Rise of the Reader. Rise of the Reader was a great book. And I honestly think that it should be, if you know somebody who's kind of in that 18 to 30 year range, who's looking to improve themselves, what I love about what he did here is kind of took that Tony Robbins and let's just say Tony Robbins approach, where he's taken a lot of information and kind of distilled it down into an easy to follow manual. But the reason I bring this up is that, as you said, sending somebody a signed copy, it's fantastic. It's nice to receive. You keep it. It's in your head. You're like, oh, I love it. It's just such a nice touch. And so when he mailed that to me, I was like, you know what? That's just such a nice touch. So to your point, and that is something you're never going to throw that away. You're not going to throw away a signed copy of somebody's book. And so I think this is a really cool tip, trick, hack, whatever you want to call it. I think this is brilliant. So I think I'm going to redo the book. I don't think we're going to stick with, this is fine, but I think doing another one kind of updated, kind of find some new topics, because, now we're focused more on that intrusion detection, thing where it doesn't matter how much security you've got, somebody can find their way past it. So how do you, know when somebody, just like in the intro message. So that's such an important thing. Just like if you had home defense, right? You've got the best ADT in the world. You got this great, security system. But if a burglar has found a way past it and you're upstairs asleep and the alarm didn't go off, that's bad, right? So how can So you need some system to go off and be like, hey, we've got sensors in the kitchen. So when somebody steps on the floor, if it's not, one of us, the alarm goes off, right? Stuff like that. Anyway, doesn't matter. The point is, I think based off of this conversation, I think it's time to update my book, get a new book out there and use this tactic. I think this is brilliant. And what business couldn't do this, where you then, when you have these virtual meetings with people, hey, let me get get your address and I'll send you a copy, or you've already got their address, their business address, sign the copy, send it to them with a second copy for them to have. Man, that is powerful stuff. And like you said, for what? $5 in mailing costs. What's it cost you to mail your book?
US postage has a media rate. So the media rate is $2 or $3 for shipping.
Wow.
Yeah. You use stamps.com. So you can just zip a label off of your computer, throw it on a cardboard mailer or a poly mailer and send it out. Yeah. I think all told, I might be out $7 in hard costs for me to do that. So
love that.
Why wouldn't you? Right?
Why wouldn't you? And really sets you apart. That is fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, if the product you sell is $50, that's probably, you're not going to do that. But if the product you sell is in 4 digits or more, why wouldn't you do that every single time?
Yeah. Oh, I love it. Okay. Well, you know what?
Yeah.
Everett, this is fantastic. I love this. I think we could go on and on and on. But I think this is as good a place as any to
absolutely.
If you could tell the listeners and viewers, where can they find out more about you and Ignite Press and kind of get started in their process?
Yeah, so they can just go to ignitepress.us, not the .com, ignitepress.us. And actually right there is an option to schedule a consultation with me. So if you've got a book in mind, if you already have a book out, we can do things with books that are already out. Like if you want to add bestseller to your accomplishments, we can do that. If a book needs to get tweaked, or if you just have an idea that you want a book, just schedule a book consultation and we can make that happen. So that's ignitepress.us.
Fantastic. Well, I think I'm going to go do that now to get that bestseller on this one. All right.
Everett, hey, Matt, thank you. What a joy. So nice meeting you. And you just have such a personable way about you. And I know that the people who watch and listen to you regularly have gotten a good feel for who you are. So thanks for doing what you're doing.
Yeah, same. Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks, Everett.
Thanks for listening to the Cyber Business Podcast. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.